This is James Taylor, and you're listening to The Creative Life. The Creative Life Podcast is a show created for you, the creative. If you're looking for inspiration, motivation, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's a musician, writer, artist, designer, performer, educator, or creative entrepreneur. They share their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, their insights, and much, much more. In this episode, I speak with designer Marcel Wanders, a man the New York Times dubs as the Lady Gaga of Design. And we talk about the department of chaos, the importance of looking for complexity, and how often the obstacle can be the way. Enjoy the episode. Hi, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to have Marcel Wanders. Marcel is an Amsterdam-based designer who first came to the world's attention through his knotted chair, which pairs high-tech materials with low-tech production methods. Since then, Marcel and his team have worked on over 1,700 projects for clients ranging from Alessi and MAC cosmetics to KLM and Puma. The New York Times dubbed him the Lady Gaga of Design, while Business Week selected him as one of Europe's 25 leaders of change. Marcel focuses on bringing the human touch back to design, ushering in what he calls design's new age, in which designer, craftsperson, and user are reunited. He also serves on the advisory board of THNK, School of Creative Design, Creative Leadership, and is a co-founder of the successful design label Moooi. And it's my pleasure to have him on the show. Welcome to the show, Marcel.
It's my pleasure to be here.
So, first of all, where are you in the world today, and what is going on in your world at the moment?
Well, I'm currently in Milano. I lived in San Francisco last year, and I decided it's nice to be 1 year in a city. And so I moved to Milano just like 10 days ago or so.
Wow, that's a big. In fact, I lived in. I don't know if you know. I lived in San Francisco for a while as well, and then kind of moved back here to Europe. So, what are some of the main differences you noticed in terms of just the kind of a place in which to work between San Francisco and Milano?
I mean, the ambition level in San Francisco is just like amazing. I mean, I was there to work with startups. I stepped into a venture capital firm as an advisor. It was an amazing time. At the end, I decided to do this for a year, and so I stepped forward. The design culture is very different, and so it's been very. I've learned a lot from just stepping out of my culture and stepping in a culture which is so different. I mean, studios are really bottom up; they're not top down like in Europe. People like to make not maybe the most exciting, strange things, but things for everybody. It's a very different culture, and it's been very interesting to be in that culture for a while.
So you're known as well for doing work which really pushes and a lot of experimental work as well. How did that work in San Francisco? Because you mentioned working in the world of VCs and everything, which you tend to think are maybe they're experimental, but experimental with a kind of very strong bottom line. You think they're less inspired by art.
I think experiments are made to get results, and I think a lot of design-oriented people do a lot of experimentation without really having an idea what the result will be, or even being interested so much in the result. I think it's cool in San Francisco that by the time things get real, things get into the area of venture capital firms or startups, they have proven a little bit of their capacity, and so they are beyond the first levels of experimentation. But now the experimentation goes in: can we take this further? Can we make this something which really millions of people are going to enjoy and be happy with? And that's a different thing.
And how did you first learn your craft? Where did the design bug bite, and how did you then kind of go from there into actually having a career in design?
It was kind of funny. I wanted to do something creative, and fortunately enough, someone knew there was something like design. We're talking about 1980, and I was probably the last one who was able to apply and get into design school in Eindhoven. And so there I got to really understand what design is. And so after 9 months, I was hooked. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I just felt it was great. And then they kicked me out of school. So that was so I was hooked for life. And I knew that whatever was going to happen, school or no school, I was going to be a designer because I loved the field.
And did you go in when you first kind of came into the world of work as a designer? Were you apprenticed to a particular designer, or did you really just kind of start out on your own?
I started on my own. There was directly. There was quite some works coming to me. My end exam work was published in the national news, in the national newspapers, and in the design field. So I was kind of a bit of a figure back then. But I really wanted to do not only like some crazy cultural stuff, but real projects. And so when I was asked by a company called Landmark, I joined them for 2.5, 3 years to really learn the trade, work with professionals on real industrial projects, and that was a great learning for me. And only after that, I started my own company for real.
And I mentioned you've had some incredible companies that you work with and clients that you work with. Everything from cosmetics companies to airlines to clothing companies to fashion brands and homeware brands as well. When you start working with a new client, talk to us about, because I know many of our listeners who maybe don't come from design, they come from music or art or from other parts of the creative industries. How does it, that initial discussion, sitting down together, what is usually happening in that room?
I mean, on average, people, by the time they get to us, they kind of know our work. On average, we kind of know who they are. We know their product. And if we don't, on average, it's kind of easy to find out online and with talking to some people. So, and that is a fundament. I mean, if there's only a discussion if there's a mutual respect. And from that mutual respect, you can see if there's a possibility for making something together, which, alone you couldn't do. Because I see a new relationship, in design, my designs, they're my babies, right? And of course, I'm the mother. And so I'm looking for great fathers, I look for fathers with whom I can do something amazing with. So I look for, smart and beautiful fathers who make me help something amazing and wonderful. So if you find this company, then, the question is, what are we going to do? We can do something, but what is it we're going to do? And sometimes it's very clear. Sometimes company has a very clear idea. Sometimes that's not so clear, and it's part of the conversation. But you get to know each other. You learn to see what are each other's capacities, and the more you know that, the better you can just dream up a project which is really going to make a difference.
And how much time with your team, your design team, are you kind of trying to get yourself into the skin of the end user? And how much are you trying to actually just really push things from other places, or rather than maybe create a type of innovation which is better, a bit better, actually just try and think completely, reframe the issue and the problem completely?
I mean, we just did a collection of baby products, like a little chair for a baby and a bounce for the baby and this kind of stuff. We didn't need a lot of research there. We have a lot of moms in the studio. I'm a father myself, so we had a very good understanding of the product. And so we took as a conceptual approach. We decided, no, we're not going to design these things for the babies. Babies never see those things. They just look for it and they look at the food and they try to mess up everything. You are a couple. Now you become a family. That's a big change. And you want that change. It's a beautiful change. But not everything has to change. So we decided that these objects, this chair, and so we designed it for the parents. We designed it so it really goes well with the beautiful life they have foreseen for their family. And so instead of making it yellow and red, we made it in a beautiful way so it really complements your existing interior. In that case, there was no big research necessary. Another project is working for an American company. We make for them face masks, anti-pollution face masks for China, for India, countries which are really suffering from pollution. In that case, I have no idea. So we really dig into understanding what the problem is, what the behavior of our future consumers is, what they expect, and how we can make an object which is not only saving lives of people, but also doesn't create a new problem. Because, of course, most masks which are in the world, they create a new problem because they are thrown away every day. Even if they work or not work, they're thrown off every way. So we try to make something super new, super innovative, and that needs a lot of research. And we're still, while developing, we're still researching.
And when you're in that kind of research stage as well, I mean, you mentioned there about these things be getting thrown away all the time. How do you kind of discover new materials and new fabrics, new things that you can actually work with for something like that?
There's no rules in my field. I mean, my studio is organized very simply. We have a department of order and we have a department of chaos. Design, obviously, is the department of chaos. I mean, there are no rules. We just have to find it. And one thing is certain: the place where you found your last thing is not the place where you will find your next thing. We went in length to find materials and new techniques. We found a wonderful technique. We worked on that. Then after 4 months of hard work, we're almost ready with the product. We find a material which is just like 300% better and completely biological, and we just start again. It's chaos. We just have to accept it. I mean, it is not linear. It's a very complicated and chaotic process. You have to stay up, stay alive, stay awake, just keep moving. And if you move with vigilance and determination, you make a chance to do something exceptional.
And you mentioned talking about the Department of Chaos, Department of Order. So I would imagine as part of your team, you have those people that work in the order department. I'm sure a lot of our creatives that are listening just now kind of will find out that rings true to them as well. Have you found anything when you've been trying to find the people, because obviously you have this company now with designers and different folks in that business? Any tips that you've maybe give to other creatives in terms of finding the yin to their yang, the someone else that can, or other people that can complement them?
I think it's more difficult to find really great creatives than to find people who want to support design. I mean, there's quite a lot of people who are bored in the positions where they are because the umfeld, the surrounding is just not so excited. I mean, they're in a bank, which for some people it's great, but for a lot of people it's not their ideal position. Although they really know the trade, they know finance. I mean, I think to find really good people to support companies based on operations, I think it's you'll find them easily. But then you have to make sure that they understand that our processes are not linear and not easy. I mean, we had a period in the studio that people were having a lot of trouble with each other because there's all these people and you have to be in time. No, you cannot expect to be in all this chaos, all this fights between each other. And so I decided I'm doing a speech, and I'm going to tell the people that they don't know, but there's a new order in the studio and it's divided in two. And so I make this distinction between the Department of Order and Chaos, and I tell everybody, you know where you are, which department you are. But just believe me that if we don't have order be important, if order is not there, then we get nothing done. We'll be very creative, we'll be very chaotic and have fun, but we'll get nothing done. And if we cannot have our chaotic processes and it's only order, we get something done, but it will never be super great. We need each other to be outstanding. And it made a big difference for the studio because, of course, there's the fight, but there's also the understanding that we need each other more than we think. And it was a really amazing change for the studio.
And can you talk to us about how if your creative process has changed from when you first got started to the kind of creative process that you have now and you're working with now?
I mean, I think on average, I've looked during the course of my life, in my professional life, I've looked for more complexity. And I think it's something which, on average, creatives will see. I mean, at first you're happy if you can make a simple object and get good results and get it realized, and at some point that is not enough, and you want to find a way to be excited about more complicated structures, about bigger projects, things which are maybe less easy to do, but also the complexity especially. And I think all these things, all that is changing also the process which you have to work with. And so, yes, it's been changed quite a lot, not the least because, when I started, I was me. The studio was me, and now the studio is a group of people who are all brilliant. But if they all have their own little studio, they are the same. They're not that brilliant. They're only brilliant because they're together, and together we can do stuff which alone we can't do. So to make them work together is kind of an art in itself. And but if we are able to do that, then I think we can do amazing stuff.
And can you talk to us about a time when you worked on a creative project, a brief with a client? And you gave it your heart and your soul, you gave it your all, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out like you'd hoped. And more importantly, what were the lessons that you took away from that experience?
I mean, it happens so often. I mean, and I'm so happy you asked me because so many people are going to be happy because they do think that if Marcel Wanders does a project, it's always ending well. It's not. It's like 70% of my projects fail at least. I mean, sometimes they fail in an initial stage. Sometimes they fail at the end. Sometimes they fail because nobody will ever, like them in the market. It doesn't, it's not so easy. If you do an experiment, then you might fail. It's just like maybe that's the most important. Well, that's one of the most important things I've learned. That you will and you can fail, and that's fine. Another really interesting thing is that, I did a project, this is a long time ago. It was a very little project, but it was dear to my heart. And let me explain it. It takes a little time, but it's worthwhile. I did a little pin for my girlfriend who was very ill at that time. And every morning I just tried to see if she was still alive, so it was serious. I made a little pin which says hero. And it was nothing as a design, but it was great for her and it was wonderful because I saw she wore it on difficult moments, and so I always felt that's a great project. I want to make that project bigger, but I didn't have like 10,000 heroes. Couldn't give 10,000 people these pins, and just to sell them in the shop didn't seem like the right thing because it just didn't feel that was the way, and so I always wanted to do that. And then 18 years later, a big magazine in the Netherlands, they asked me, "Oh, Marcel, do you want to do the cover for our magazine?" And I called them back and said, No, I'm not a graphic designer. You find someone else. I mean, thank you. And then a week later, I called them back and said, maybe I don't do your cover, but I will do your whole magazine. But then the subject of the magazine will be, what do we value in life, and how we recognize that in other people, and maybe can we tell them this and give them this pin. And I would do that price for free, but you make, some few 100,000 of these pins so people can give them to others. And so after 18 years, I was able to complete the project. And my learning from that was that, if you don't quit your game, you will never lose. You'll never have to lose a game if you don't give up. If the referee whistles, you keep playing. You can win. You only lose the game maybe if you stop playing. And that was important to me. I mean, important things, don't come when you want them, but they might come later.
Yeah, that's a great story as well. And in this creative journey that you've had as a designer, can you tell us about any particular points in your life where you've had this kind of insight, or that light bulb moment when you've maybe said, whether it's from your career or even just you as a person, okay, this is a distinction, this is something, maybe a change I need to make in my life or in the kind of work that I'm doing. You just had that insight personally.
Well, I remember that, and this is also quite a while ago. I remember I wrote a book on design. This is 1995, 96. And so it was a bit of a different story than the usual subjects of design. I was to say it very short, I was a little bit the new age guy in the context of design in a world which is very rational and very technocratic. And so my book was about 10 points which were really, speaking about the different typology of design. And so at that point also I wrote the book, and no, it was before the book. That's the whole point. I was before the book, but I had these ideas, and so I said to my girlfriend, "Oh, I feel so lonely. There's no one who understands me. I don't know. I talk to people, I never get something back. Blah blah blah, and I can't find no one who has an interesting thing to say." And then she says to me, "If there is someone out there, how could they find you instead of me finding them?" And so that was such a revelation, such an insight, and it made me understand that I was not clear enough to the world. And so how would the world ever know that I was just having these subjects and they were important to me? So I decided to write that book, which really made a big difference for me as a professional, as a personal. So it was wonderful, a wonderful insight that if you want to be heard, you have to scream. You cannot whisper.
That's great. If it reminds me a little bit of my friend Derek Sivers, who started a company called CD Baby, and then sold it, and then is now living out in Asia. And he talked about, he said for years and years, it felt like everyone was singing the same line, like he was musicians. Everyone was singing the melody, and I was the only person singing the counter melody. He said, but unless I started singing that counter melody out, then suddenly other people started singing the counter melody and adding their harmonies to in terms of the kind of things I was talking about and things I was thinking about. But he said, unless I had the courage to kind of put that counter melody out there, it just felt like everyone was singing the same line and doing the same thing. So it's amazing that you came to that kind of insight as well. And obviously you're now, I mentioned in that book as well, and obviously I'd imagine a lot of designs are very influenced by you. But what's some of the best advice that you've ever received from others, either mentors previously to you or other people may don't necessarily work in design per se, but you've taken a lot from in terms of the way that you think about design?
Well, let me say, I got a lot of people who told me, because I do quite a lot of different things. Sorry, there's a call coming. I do quite a lot of different things, and so what people always advise me is to do what I'm really good at, to use my talent, to concentrate on my talents, and so that was great advice, and I decided never to use it because I think it's really not so smart in a way. Yes, you might have a talent, but let's decide running is your talent, right? Now you can run fast, but what's going to happen if you run fast? There's going to be a hurdle, right? There's always a hurdle, and so if you're not able to jump hurdles, then you're in trouble. So the one thing you have to do, if your talent is running, you have to just learn how to jump hurdles. And that's annoying and that's horrible because it's not nice, you're not good there. It's really not something you want to even spend time on, but it will make your running better. Because if you can jump hurdles better and faster, your running will automatically go faster because that's your talent. And I think that's a super important insight. There are things on your way which are annoying but important. Study them. Be better.
That reminds me a little bit. There's a great writer called Ryan Holiday who wrote actually something in that kind of vein. He talked about the obstacle is the way, which I think it comes from Stoic philosophy or maybe it's from Roman times and they actually teach it at military schools now in America where they say exactly what you were saying there. Obviously we have these assets, but these talents, but don't necessarily concentrate them, sometimes do the opposite and learn what you can't do and removing these obstacles along the way. So he just talked about the obstacle is the way as well and how you kind of find out and you grow as a person at the same time.
I mean, if you want to be a super specialist, you might get away with it. But since, creatives, we are all generalists, right? I mean, we bring stuff together. It's all out there. We just make new connections. So we should be active as generalists. So to work on one theme all your life. I mean, I just don't think I don't think it's fun, but it's also not worthwhile. You won't grow.
So you're in some ways you're you're kind of remixing? You're pulling on other things that have happened in the past and then putting yourself into it. And so where in terms of an artist and as a creative, how are you ensuring that you're always staying fresh and open to new ideas and new inspirations? What are some of the ways that for you work?
See, people keep telling that there's nothing new to be done. There's no novelty, and so the way I look at it, there might be nothing new, but there's new combinations. There's new relations to be made. You can make the relations between objects which are not related yet, or a material and a function which is not new, or a thought and a project. There's new relations to be made. The things, all the parts are there, but there's huge amount of relations to be made which are not yet there. And so to be a creator of relationships is basically what we do. And hopefully we make them better. Hopefully we make them more meaningful and more fun. But I think that's what we do. We don't make new things. We make new relationship between things.
And as a designer, you're traveling all the time. You're meeting with different folks. Are there any tools that you love, either online tools that you tend to you find valuable, or kind of offline tools in terms of notepads and things that help you either capture creative ideas or develop creative ideas?
Well, I'm now, as I told you, I'm in Milano, and my most important medium for connection is my mouth, and so I'm studying Italian. So I've got some apps here which help me to train with words, and I have a dictionary. It's all in my iPhone, and it helps me a lot.
Which any language learning apps? I know there's some great ones out there, but are there any apps that you're particularly enjoying just now?
No, I'm in school now, so I'm studying really. But I have some word trainer and some dictionaries which I use for just when I'm not at school. I just quickly look for some words or train some words. And
if you could recommend just one record and one book to our listeners, what would they be?
Okay. It's too silly for words, but in my studio every Friday at 5:00 since 25 years, we play Rocky. We play Victory Song. It's Friday. We did it. Victory Song goes on. So that's a monumental song in my studio. It's really interesting because I started it 25 years ago. And sometimes for a half year it's gone, then someone picks it up, but it's always been there. Someone at 5:00 puts up that song as a kind of momentum. And then as a book, I would say Ken Wilber. He's a fantastic writer. He wrote more than one great book, but I would say, what's his book name? A Little History of Everything. That's, I believe, the name of the book. It's an amazing book.
Great. And we'll put all these links. If people go to jamestaylor.me and just type in Marcel Wanders, you'll be able to get all these links that we're talking about as well. So just a final question for you, Marcel, before we finish up here. Let's imagine that you woke up tomorrow morning and had to start from scratch. So you have the tools of your trade and the knowledge that you've acquired over these years, but you have no contacts, no one knows who you are. You have to start again. How would you restart?
I would know everything I know, but nobody would know me.
Exactly.
Okay. I would. Oh my God, that's interesting. Yeah, it's simple. I would make 5 works which show what I can do. I'd go to the right people and tell them who I am. But that's the thing. Your work has to prove who you are. If you're not known for what you do, and then you have to do what you will be known for. So make work, do it.
Make work and share it. Are there any? Finally, just on this very last question, I'm interested in know from yourself is: are there any technologies or ideas or materials that you're particularly fascinated with just now, and you're trying to learn more about?
I'm deeply interested in computational design at the moment, and we're investigating a lot in that because I think it's super cool and super interesting. And I think it's time, and the technology starts to be better and better. And so that's something I'm really interested in. And if there's anyone who wants to help me there or can join me there or has interesting stuff to share, please connect me.
Wonderful. Well, Marcel, thank you so much for coming on the show. What is the best way that people can learn more about your work and connect with you?
We have a website, marcelwanders.com, and there's an info at Marcel Wanders, which is the shortest way to me.
Well, thank you, Marcel. Thanks for coming on. I wish you all the best with your language learning in Italy and all the new work that you're doing as well. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, James Taylor here again. And if you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.